po mga people.
My name is Millicent Reyes.
Pangalan ko ay Isa Ramos.
And I am a sophomore and a nursing major.
Nag-aaral ako sa Marquette University.
At the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee.
Biomedical Sciences yung inaaral ko.
So I am the first generation on both sides of my family to have been born in the United States. My parents both moved here when they were in their 20s, as well as the rest of my family followed soon after them. Growing up Filipino-American, I kind of felt like when I was at home, I wasn't really that Filipino. I couldn't speak the language. I didn't understand a lot of things that my parents were saying either. And when I went to school as a Filipino-American, I didn't feel like I was American enough, like my classmates were. So I didn't really know how to identify myself because I kind of was in between two different worlds, and I kind of just was in this little space, this little bubble where I felt like nobody understood what I was feeling.
So I was born in Quezon City, Philippines. I moved to the US when I was around 6. It was a really big pivotal moment in my life because it was such a big change for me in terms of just the dynamic, the people, and the education. So growing up, it was really hard for me to identify with a specific demographic because to Hmong people, I didn't look quite like them. I was Asian enough, but I was darker than most of them. My last name was Ramos. My name didn't sound Asian, but I looked kind of Asian. And so I kind of had a bit of an identity crisis growing up, not knowing what communities I can identify with. Who was I really? And would I ever feel enough of a certain demographic to feel like I was a part of it? In the 4th grade, I remember specifically a classmate of mine who kept calling me Chinese, and at one point I had just had it and said, "I'm not Chinese, I'm Filipino." And I remember him going, "Filipino, what the hell is that? Jalapeno?" And I remember just getting so angry about it because I knew what I was, and for the first time in my life, I actually stood up for myself.
Whistle, 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 please! We want cheese!
Being involved in student organizations have helped me to embrace my culture more because it kind of gave me a safe space here at UWM where I joined a little group called Filipino Student Union that kind of became like a second home for me, a really close community, kind of like I could basically see them as my family here at UWM, a home away from home pretty much.
We are setting up the tables for our boodle fight!
Mayan is a Filipino feast that is eaten with your hands where we lay banana leaves on the table and we put the food directly on top of that.
Okay, wait, I think I need some more. I'm gonna get some from here. Oh, this feels so good!
The biggest thing about it is that we all share what's on the table, is that there is kind of no, like, this is my plate, this is your plate, it's all of ours. And it's a really great bonding experience that I was able to have with my Filipino friends.
So I am involved in Bayanihan Student Organization, our Filipino cultural club on Marquette's campus. As a freshman, I joined just about everything you could. I loved cultural dancing. I did all of the shows. Growing up, I did participate in Filipino cultural dances, and so I think that was one way that was special to me, that I really got to learn a lot about the things that I couldn't know just from having lived there, from the history that I wasn't able to learn about in school.
Get up!
There we go.
Up a step.
So AKA pairing stands for Ate, Kuya, Ading. And so Ate is the honorific term for an older sister, and Kuya is the same but for a brother.
I also have an ate over at Marquette University. Her name is Isa.
Of course, my Ading, Millie. I see myself the most in her just because we've gone through a lot of the similar situations that I've just been exposed to knowing her.
She's kind of like a mentor to me as well, and she does teach me a lot about our culture and just kind of what it's like, you know, living as a college student being Filipino.
1, 2, 3, no coast!
Mafa MAFA stands for Midwest Association of Filipino-Americans.
It's the umbrella org that most Filipino organizations in colleges around the Midwest fall under. Been a part of MAFA since I joined FSU because we are a MAFA organization.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Alan. I'm from UIC.
I'm Millie. I'm from the University of Wisconsin. And I've had the amazing experience of traveling around the Midwest. We in Chicago! And meeting new people.
There's a golf course up here.
From all over different states, all over different schools. I'm just kind of connecting with friends that I've never imagined that I have the opportunity to meet because they're in Michigan or Ohio or Pennsylvania.
And I think MAFA is really important because it brings people together, and I think it gives a bigger sense of how many Filipinos truly are out there. I was surprised to even see how many Filipinos there were at Marquette for Bayanihan, and being able to travel to other schools and see how many other Filipinos there were, and seeing how our culture was being celebrated by their school, and getting to meet different kinds of people from different kinds of backgrounds and what draws them to being a part of MAFA or their Filipino student org.
Battle of the Bamboo at the University of Illinois in Chicago.
So Battle of the Bamboo is one event that kind of brings together the MAFA sphere. It's hosted by UIC's Filipino organization called THEA. It is a cultural dance competition where schools from all over the Midwest come, perform, and are judged by a panel of experts on dance. This year, I had the amazing opportunity to further myself into my cultural roots by dancing with BSO's Bayanihan Cultural. We did a segment about the Tales of the Mermaids,
which goes back to the Kalinga and Itnig tribes of the Philippines that's considered a Cordillera suite. And so those tribes often told stories about sirenas or sirens that came and were discovered by their villages. And so our battle chords, Kiko Ramos, Krista Kasuga, and Abby Montalvo, were able to put together a beautiful piece of different Filipino tribes coming together, celebrating their culture, and being under attack by sirens or sirenas, and how the community comes together to be able to overcome that.
We actually placed second this year, which was amazing. It was kind of unreal, actually, because it was my first time performing on that kind of stage, and just kind of the pride that you feel and that you were able to show everybody the hard work that you put in through hours of practice, and that you know that you represented your country and that you made your parents proud was just a completely new feeling to me.
Filipino-American community, I think it's unique because we have a responsibility to ourselves to learn about the Filipino culture in the capacity that we choose to. And I think that it's important to note that even if you don't speak Tagalog, even if you don't know a lot about the Filipino history and its experiences, I think it doesn't make you any less Filipino, just as the way as being half Filipino doesn't make you any less Filipino. What's so unique about the Filipino-American experience is that we embrace the cultures that we have being Filipino, but we also, from the circumstances and the social climate that we're in, we're able to put those two worlds together and make it an experience of our own.